Hello and welcome to Guiding Gettysburg, and it's Freaky Friday today. So hold on because I have a really bizarre story for you. The story is about a man who swears that he is a time traveler. And he says that he was here on November 19th, 1863, when it was the dedication of the National Cemetery and Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. This man's name is Andrew Basiago, and he's from New Jersey. He is a lawyer and a politician, and he ran for president in 2016, although not many people heard about him. But he's right up there on the front lines of popularity, so it amazes me that he's willing to make this kind of a statement. And he has proof, he says, and he backs it up. So let's get into the story a little bit. Andrew's father was born in New Jersey too, and he worked for the government. And this is how they came to be linked to those projects that the government would work on. And this is nothing, new for the government. They're always working on some kind of experiments and projects, and especially during war times. A good example of this is Project Blue Book, and that's the project where they dealt with UFOs. And if you remember Area 51 and all that business, and there was a UFO in Pennsylvania where they were involved with. And now that the files are unsealed, a lot of people can read about what happened in these places, in Project Blue Book, so it's not confidential anymore. Another thing that the government worked on was psychic transporting, and it's called remote viewing. If you've ever heard of it, it means that the psychic person could stay in one room and go all over the world in their mind and talk about what they saw. And this came into popularity during World War II. It was a means of spying on the enemy. It's very fascinating stuff if you ever read about it, and there's lots out there on the internet if you care to. But Andrew was involved with Project Pegasus, and this was, as he says, that the government would transport people back in time so they could learn what really happened and, pick up on any tips that might have come about so the government would be advanced over other governments. Andrew's father also worked for the government, and apparently he was involved with Project Pegasus as well. And this is how Andrew came to be in the program. In the 1970s is when Pegasus was in full swing. And they started this experiment because of Nikola Tesla. He was doing some work before he died with transporting people in time, and I guess they picked up on it after that and just continued the theories and the searching, and that's how it went. It is said that children are better to transport in time than adults, and I guess one reason is because of their flexibility of their bodies, and another reason is because they are naive, and they don't question things like adults do. They had several children in this program, from what Basiago reveals, and he was one of them. And he was a young boy of around 7 or 8 years old, I guess, during that time when he came to Gettysburg. Now, he is also said to have visited Ford's Theater when Lincoln was shot. And these stories are just preposterous to me, but they make sense. When you think about some of the things that the government has done and denied, and, I don't know. I don't know what I think. Part of me wants to believe it, and part of me says, no, I can't do that, but I want to hear what you have to say. Andrew explained how the process worked, and they would get into a chamber, and they were dressed in regular clothing, and they would seal the door on the chamber, and then all of a sudden they were transported back in time. Apparently, when they were on the ride in this chamber, it was a very bumpy ride, because Andrew says when he got to Gettysburg, he was missing a sock and a shoe, his jacket, and also he was wearing a cap of some kind. Andrew ended up on the sidewalk in Gettysburg. He didn't say where, but it must have been downtown somewhere from his description. And he met a man named John Burns. Now, any of you history students out there know who John Burns was. He was the so-called hero of Gettysburg. And at the time, he was 69 years old, and he went into battle when the soldiers came. And he was an old man, but he took his musket and he wanted to go to war. He wanted to fight against the Confederates. And so he went out on Seminary Ridge and asked one of the commanders if he could join up, and they said yeah. And he got in line, and he was fighting with the Union Army on that first day of the battle. Unfortunately, he was wounded in his leg, and they got him back to his house, and he recovered after that. But because of his heroic deed, he was known as the hero of Gettysburg. And when Lincoln was coming to Gettysburg to give the address, he wanted to meet John Burns in person because he was very proud of John Burns. Now, John Burns on any given day was a pretty hard man to get along with. He was bossy and had attitudes about things. He was the town constable, and also he was a cobbler in town. And he was old and crotchety, from what I understand, and it gave people a rough time. He wanted his neighbor to go to war with him to the first day of battle. And his neighbor, had no intention of going to fight. He wasn't in the best of health. So this is why John Burns stood out so much, because he was the only guy, the only civilian from town that went into the battle on that day. Andrew Basiago said he met John Burns on the sidewalk, and John Burns bent over to help him get up off the ground. And he says, "What happened to your clothes? You look like you've been through the ringer, And Basiago said, "I don't really know what happened." He said, "I just kind of passed out here, and I noticed I'm missing my shoe and my sock and some other things." And he said John Burns was concerned for him because it was a little chilly out, and it was fall, it was November, but the weather was fairly mild as they recorded it. And Burns said for Basiago to come with him, that he would try and get him fixed up with a pair of shoes at least. And he went to the cobbler shop, I guess, and John Burns gave him a pair of shoes. The only shoes, that would even fit him at all were way too big for Andrew. And it's funny because if the picture is correct that Andrew said it's him, it looks like clown shoes that he's wearing. Andrew says that John Burns also gave him an old jacket and a cap to wear, which was very nice of Burns, but I don't know where John Burns would get those in his cobbler shop. I could understand the extra large pair of shoes, but not a jacket and a cap. But, oh well, you be the judge. I'm including pictures here, and the boy in the foreground in the one photo, if you look at his feet, they do look like big old clown shoes, and it is kind of funny. This is the boy that Andrew Basiago said he was during that time period. In 1863, and he saw Lincoln, and he saw, his father was even at the Gettysburg Address too, but he was not allowed to recognize him or talk to him. So very suspicious things, but I thought you would be interested in a story like this of time travel, and it's a back to the future for Gettysburg, I guess. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please let me know what you think of it, and you take it easy, and see you next time, okay? Please tell your friends about us. Take care. Bye-bye.